everybody. I am Jess, as part of the Loud Woman team, and today I'm here interviewing Soph from the amazing band R.U.B. How are you today, Soph?
I'm really well, thank you. I'm so happy to be chatting with you about the band, about Loud Women. It's such an exciting thing that we've got that we're part of. It's amazing.
Yes, we're so excited that you are part of it. So, for people that don't know you, tell me a little bit about your band.
Yes. Okay. So Rob is we're sort of I feel like the way that we describe Rob is that we're feminist in terms of like when we're less girl power and more like fuck you. Like that's kind of like the way that we set up what we're talking about. It's very sort of based in the DIY scene in Naarm in Melbourne, relying on like anarcho punk references from Poison Girls and X Ray Specs, but kind of with that contemporary riot girl influence. And some of our stuff is really poppy and like more kind of grungy too. So there's like, it's so like our inspiration is so mixed, but I think what unites us is that political framework behind our sound. So we've got like a really staunch intersectional feminist message, which has been so amazing to then be part of Loud Women because it's so aligned with us in that DIY. We're so DIY. So the band started a little bit as a lockdown project, as so many bands that are now coming up did. And then through a series of events have sort of led to the iteration of the lineup today, which is like, I feel like Rob only really started when the three of us all got together and locked in. Like it's kind of like now it's like going. So that's kind of like a long story short of Rob.
That's really amazing. And I love that you started talking about like the political angle of the band because so many
Yeah.
people start talking about like the sound of their music, but you were immediately like, this is what we stand for. So I think that really lines up with what Loud Woman's doing for sure.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we were talking off camera a little bit about what the band name R.U.B stands for and what was kind of the inspiration behind that name.
So we thought about a few different things and the name. So we kind of wanted something punchy and short, something like, yeah, one syllable. We were like, And this is back in the day where, so for a bit of context, Rub started off with being me and another guitarist, Olivia. And Liv is an amazing tattooer. And Liv, when the band got really busy, Liv sort of was like, oh, I think my attention's being pulled a bit from my tattooing. So she stepped back. But Liv and I were kind of like ruminating on what the name should be. And I'd originally called the project Bitch. And that had been as a result of like the in the lockdown, it was the Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez had talked about being called bitch on like the steps to the Congress. Like I think there was like a congressman who'd muttered under his breath, like bitch, whatever. And then she'd made some amazing statement that was like, I've been called so much worse in my bar jobs. Like it's like funny that you thought that would offend me, but also like this is what we face, blah blah, blah as women, as femme people. Um, so I was kind of like wanting that like punch. We realized there was another amazing metal band already called Bitch, so that was sad. But then we were like, okay, and the idea of like rub really hit. I think it was actually I can't remember if it was Liv or me. I can't remember, but it was this idea of like rubbing up the wrong way, like
Mm.
rubbing somebody like just the idea of being abrasive, like rub. And it was kind of like we also like aesthetically we love wearing like leather and like kind of like shiny, like it was kind of like the idea of like rubber as well was kind of cool, like a double meaning there. But it's, yeah, particularly for me, it's like that abrasiveness that really I like with the name. And then we'd sort of thought about making it a bit more punk, and it kind of started out as a joke, being like R.U.B. And we were trying to think of something good that it stood for, but we still haven't come up with anything. So we need to retroactively add in what it stands for. And yeah, we were talking before that we're still taking suggestions. So if anybody has some ideas, let us know. We've had a few really good ones at the moment. We're rolling with Rats und Brats, with und being the German and.
Yeah.
Because we're like, yeah, because me and Chloe, our drummer, we're the rats, and Dasha is the brat because she's a bit more like she just has a vibe that's like more bratty than ratty. So that's that that's where we're at.
I love that. That's a really fun background about the name. So you are hosting the Loud Woman Melbourne show in association with
Yeah.
Loud Woman. And how would you describe the music scene in Melbourne? What is it like for those of us that don't live there?
Oh, we're actually so lucky. And I think that sometimes some of us can take it for granted. And then I'll be in other areas and I'm like, oh wow, we really have such a vibrant scene. In like the way that I think I could describe it is like in Melbourne, if you're really involved in music, you can see a show every week, Wednesday to Sunday, like without even breaking a sweat. Like,
Wow.
and yeah, yeah, yeah. And like there's so many times where, like, just literally, I think like last month, I went to two shows in one night because I had a friend playing and then I had to like duck across town to see my other mates. Like, that happens all the time. And we're just so lucky. One thing that we've really loved as well is that so much of Melbourne scene is really DIY, and it kind of has really informed the organizing of the Loud Women Festival in Melbourne, because we quickly realized that like my knowledge through booking with R.U.B and being part of the Melbourne scene is actually really easy to organize in Melbourne, because you're not having to outlay money. Like a lot of venues in other areas, I think in Sydney especially, just a bit of a different scene. Like you have to put down money to book a venue.
Mhm.
Whereas in Melbourne, the venues will be like, no worries, we'll put on the show. We'll have the door person. We'll take $3 from every ticket. Sounds great. And like it's just done. And I think that it actually gives so many bands so much more opportunities here. And I mean, look, in COVID, everybody struggled. And I think Melbourne is such a cultural capital of Australia that Melbourne felt the sting. And there have been venues that have been really struggling. So I don't want to sort of make out like it's all really rosy and not acknowledge that it has been really difficult for venues. But for the most part, in terms of what I see in the rest of the world, even I was recently in London and chatting with a friend who's there, and she's actually moving to Melbourne soon. And I was just like, I was so excited to have her be part of this scene here, because it's amazing. It's really incredible. And it actually is, there's multiple different scenes in terms of music. There's like a really strong garage scene, like a pub rock scene, amazing DJs and electronica. And then there's this there's like a hardcore scene, like capital H hardcore. And then there's a very specific like DIY, anarcho, more kind of crusty D beat punk that we don't really sound like those bands, but then we're politically aligned.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of mixed bills happening all the time as well. And there's like a particular scene generating that's kind of like a queer core scene that we've been really actively welcomed into. And a lot of the times, those are the shows that we love playing the most, where it's a really diverse sound, mixed bill, but really aligned politically and DIY. So that's been really cool. We're actually so lucky here.
Wow, that is really interesting to hear. I'm really happy to hear that Melbourne supports in such a way. And
Yeah.
you guys really focus on representation and accessible spaces? Do you find that that those are what you have in Melbourne? Is that something that you've had to cultivate?
I think it's something that we've been intentional about and searched for, but if you search for it, it's there. So like, yeah, which is cool. So I think like at the beginning, when we weren't necessarily able to like be choosy about shows, especially because when we started playing, like Liv and I, when we first started with the band, this is my first band in like ever really. And so, and Liv had played in a band before, but years ago. And so we were kind of like, we didn't really have like that immediate connection where you're in a community of people and everyone's been in bands before and you just relink in. It was like, we were kind of like, okay, we'll just give it a go and see if it works. So we were just playing everything. And then when we got a bit of momentum and then we're able to make some decisions, and then especially when it became me, Dasha, and Chloe, we made a really conscious choice to actually not play shows where we were like the token girl band. And I think that like that's something that there are, okay, like there's like a spectrum, right? Like there are some scenes within that Melbourne microcosm where no one cares about representation. But then there is a bit more of like a little insidious kind of scene where there's like this level of, oh, we care, but we're gonna like get the token band that opens and plays to 15 people. And then, oh God, okay, we're not going to get cancelled on Instagram. And that scene, I think, very quickly were like, a new baby band that's like femme. Like, let's just grab them and put them on the opening. And then those kind of shows, like we were getting some good shows, but it didn't really feel like it was part of our ethos. Like we felt a bit hollow. And so we kind of made a bit of it. And like, even though we were like, oh yeah, of course, like we want to subvert the idea of like representation, and then like sure, we'll take the show at the big venue that we'd never play at normally, but then we kind of got to a point where we were a bit like, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. And so we then decided that we weren't going to play shows where we were the only queer or femme people on the bill. So it really guided us. And so then, and very quickly at kind of around that same time, we were like, we cracked through into more of the DIY scene, because I think there's a bit of like, you have to have a bit of trust that you're not dickheads, I think, to then have people want to book you on those shows, because it's about like keeping spaces safe. Um and so we've really loved those shows. And so we're just really intentional about that, because like we're doing this not just to, I mean it's amazing to hang out with our mates on the weekend, but we're not doing, this isn't a band that we're doing to just have a social life. We're doing it with drive and cause and a political agenda that's really, really clear. So it's like we want to make our shows count.
That's so amazing to hear. And so then I can see why you are excited to host with Loud Woman, because like you said, that really lines up with their values. Do you know
Yeah.
some of the other bands on the bill? Are they all mostly coming in from Melbourne?
We tried to, well, so we, the way that we organize Loud Women is that we kind of split off. So I booked Melbourne, and um the other team in Australia booked Sydney. So yeah, so for me, I wanted to make sure actually that it wasn't just Melbourne bands.
Mhm,
I think because like we're so lucky that Melbourne has a really fertile scene, and I wanted to feel like it was a special event.
mhm,
Like it's a really beautiful, it's like abundance, right? Because like I was like, oh, I want it to feel like a bit special, because we're really lucky and we can have a like Loud Women lineup any weekend, because we've got the people in Melbourne, and we often do, like we're playing a show on Sunday that's with a Swedish D beat band, that's that sort of like queer core booking scene. And like I think every single band is queer and femme, like, and it's just we don't even think about it anymore, it just happens. But I was like, okay, no, I want it to be something that's actually like spreading this like Melbourne energy, and then like bringing Loud Women to Australia, and Melbourne is like the meeting place. And I think like having Cassie's backing, Cassie, the founder of Loud Women, to do some selecting of different people. So I was really intentional about bringing other bands in. So like, for example, and bringing different types of bands that maybe hadn't had a chance to come to Melbourne, might not normally play a room like that. So one band that I'm so excited to see is a band called Pelvis, and they're from Adelaide. And they were a band that I found from all the applications, because there was so many applications. I think there was like, there was so many. I feel like there was like hundreds and hundreds. And the name obviously struck me. Always my favorite part of queer femme bands is the name. My I tell my mom the names that I'm playing with, and she's just like, oh my God. She's like one of our favorite like jokes, but just how iconic they are. My mom's also a pelvic floor physio, so pelvis, I think definitely, like I was like iconic. But like they're this incredible like doom kind of punk band from Adelaide that I hadn't heard of before, but found on the application, listened to their stuff, loved their message about why they applied. So like that's an example where I was like, yes, let's go. Like, and I tried to pull bands from every single city, really. So we've got another band that I'm excited on that are playing, and I think so Pelvis are playing. I think that they're definitely playing Melbourne. They might potentially be playing Sydney as well, but I know that Horror from Brisbane are definitely playing both, and they're amazing. So I'd been aware of them because R.U.B played a Queensland tour, and in the lead up to booking that tour, I just, because again, it's like every tour is Loud Women vibes for R.U.B. So like we'd wanted to play with all the sick like femme and queer bands, and there's actually a really popping scene in Brisbane. Um, it's probably, I would say, next under Melbourne, and I'd seen this name Horrorboris on all these lineups that friends of ours have been playing and that I'd kind of heard of. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I listened to them. They're amazing. They happen to apply to Loud Women. And they're incredible too. So just like really amazing bands. There are a few bands from Melbourne, like us, which I was like, oh, I felt a bit like I'm so happy organizing it, but then I was like, I don't want to take up space by then also playing again because we did play last year, but Cassie was like, no, play, it'll be fine. So it'll be fun. So yeah, we're playing a band called Whip, they're an incredible band. They're also kind of like an anarcho punk band that we love playing with, and they're playing in Melbourne. And then there's a band called well, there's actually so many. They're I feel like I could talk about them all literally all day. There's a band called Charlie Needs Braces, which are amazing, and they're like so different. They're kind of like art punk. Um, and they're a band that's based in I think they're based in Melbourne as well. Actually, I need to check that, but because they're in a slightly different scene to us, because I didn't also want to just pick bands that were in the same scene. But
Mhm.
um, I'd known about Charlie Needs Braces for a while because just their name again, I'd seen them all around. So they're going to be incredible to have. It's going to be such a fun day. I'm actually so excited.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be an absolutely amazing show, and just yeah, like from the band names you can tell it's going to be so much fun.
Oh my God, it's literally my favorite thing ever. And I realized before I was like chatting with a friend of mine, my friend who plays in Whip, and I'm actually going to be doing 3 sets myself, which is I'm obsessed. It's so DIY, so punk. Like my own set. I'm filling in on bass for Whip. And then I don't know if I'm allowed to launch the third one, but there'll be another. I'll wait. I don't know whether it's my place to say, but I
Yeah.
will be also playing another set for another band, but I won't spoil the lead. Maybe I'll let that come later.
Well, we can't wait to see it. Unfortunately, that is all the time I have today, but it's been fantastic chatting with you. And how can people support you and what you're doing?
Oh, thanks, Jess. And thank you for just letting me chat. I feel like I've just yapped. Um, please follow Loud Women on Instagram. So it's at Loud Women. And then if you also want to check out the band, please check it out. It's at rub.punk. Actually, wait, no, sorry, that's our email. It's just at rubpunk. There's no dot. You'll find us. And that's on Instagram. We're also on Bandcamp. Bandcamp's always the best way that we can generate some sort of like tiny little bit of revenue as artists, but also streaming is great too, but not Spotify. We're not on Spotify, we're on Apple Music and all the other streaming services. So check us out. That'd be so nice if people did.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Soph. It was great speaking with you.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much.